I also use them for composting. This pallet here is a pallet that you can get from folks that carry tile or stone. That's the pallet that they put tiles on. And it just happens my neighbors across the street are getting some tile work in their house. They just came, they know to ask now. They're like, do you want this? And I'm like, yes, I want it. I'll take your garbage. So once you have your chickens, the most important thing that you have to think about is keeping the predators out. And so you really want to build your chicken coop like Fort Knox. And I am not kidding. Because I get raccoons. There's usually 3 of them. They come every single night. They now come like clockwork, so I know what time they come. They come at 2:42 every morning. And my bedroom window is right there, and I'm always looking out the window. But they taught me what I needed to do with this chicken coop once I did the expansion. This chicken wire buries down into the ground about 18 inches. And then I have a little piece that sort of folds out so that if they're going to dig in, they're always going to run into the chicken wire. The good thing here is that this is set on cement, so they can't dig under and then come up and tunnel through. So this whole coop is on cement. Underneath there, I have a 3-inch layer. It took me quite a while to get that going. I have a 3-inch layer of pebbles, and then I put compost on top of that, and I just keep layering compost and leaves and wood chips and that kind of thing. And the sidewalk serves as the barrier. So if they can get between the side, they can't get in. They're not going to be able to get in. And what is that called? I'm losing my mind. Chain link also goes down about 2 inches into the ground. I'm going insane. I can't remember anything. So that works pretty well. The weakest part on that coop there is the door, but I always shut. There's a sliding door. Once they go in the garage at night, there's a sliding door that I lock every night. You have to make sure that you do that every night. You don't want to. I haven't lost a chicken yet. I'm very lucky. But and I guess you're never going to be prepared when you do. But I try to take precautions so that I don't lose the chickens. And then the metal, what I call the tin shed coop out back, that's also on a cement pad. So if you're going to make a chicken coop and you know that it's going to be in a specific space and you really think this is a long-term thing and you have the means to do it, put a cement pad down or lay down, square concrete squares and put your coop on top of that so that the critters can't get underneath it. They will, they have the ability to, dogs can chew right through this. I'm really lucky there's not a lot of free dogs around here. If there were more free dogs around here, I'd be putting hardware cloth here. And actually I should put hardware cloth here because the hungrier they get, the more they're going to pull at it. I try to keep as much of the connection of the chicken wire on the inside as I can. As you can see, all of this is on the outside. But if you look through here, you'll see that there's another hardware cloth type piece here that's connected on the inside. So they may be able to pull this off, but they're not going to get through there. Okay, so I just try to, I really have to do something here because I try to limit how far they can reach in. Okay?
Because they will pull whatever.
They will pull whatever they want through. And it won't be pretty when you find it. It's important also to make sure that your chicken coop stays dry because your chickens will get sick very quickly if they're wet. Another good reason to either raise your coop up off the ground or put down a heavy layer of wood chips or something like this so that when the water starts coming down hard and heavy when we get those big rains, that it has some place to go and it's not your chickens sitting in the muck all day. Because although our winters aren't really super harsh, it can get cold and wet enough that it can just really chill them and they'll get sick quickly. It also, keeping the chicken coop dry dry is healthy for the chickens, less bacteria grows, that type of thing. You can't always keep your run dry. That's just a reality, and they like digging in the mud and that kind of stuff. But if you can keep the place where they go to rest at night dry, that's really, really important. What I've done in this coop is in regard to bedding. When I first started, I was using hay for everything. I was just breaking up bales of hay and using that for bedding. I used it for the baby chicks, I used it for when they were pullet size, and I used it when they were larger. Now what I'm doing, and if we can look at it later, but in the inner coop here, and you'll see too, I also have a door that separates the original coop to this extension. I shut that door at night because it's another way of just keeping them safe. But in the inner coop where they sleep at night, I have hay there. And a lot of times in the winter, I'll build it up till it's about a foot deep, and they nestle in that when it's cold out, and they just sort of keep themselves all warm and cozy. In this coop here, and this is what I consider part of the indoor run, and also because I'm so close to people, my chickens are always enclosed, unless I'm home and I can be around. I think someone's calling. Do you want to take it? Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Unless I can be around when they're out. But generally that's not too often. So in here what I've done, I've put a 4-inch layer of compost down, and then I put a 4-inch layer of just this wood chip stuff. And they continually are turning it for me, and anytime I give them greens, or they're eating pumpkin today, or squash. Pumpkin, by the way, will make your yolks really beautiful, beautiful orange. It's beta-carotene. It's the same situation. If we had yolks, they would be bright orange if we had a lot of beta-carotene. But so also in there too is I will take the hay from the old coop and I will dig it and rotate it around so they just compost themselves. So after a year, I could, if I wanted to, pull material out of here and start using it as the starter for my own compost pile for the garden. Okay? Or I can just put more finished compost in there. So this right now is my experiment with a self-composting system. Okay? What I'm doing in what I call the garage barn coop, on the interior, they're just using wood chips. Okay? Yes?
Oh, about taking it out and using it for compost?
I use it as a compost starter, so I don't put it directly in the garden.
Okay, how long before you what you take out of there, you put it in compost?
Usually between 3 and 6 months.
Okay, and then you
Then I can move it into the garden. Generally 6 months, just to be safe.
so that way it would be.
Yeah, because if you have a cold compost, you don't want to move anything after 3 months. If your compost steams regularly, like a hot compost, you could maybe move it after 3 months. Safety, 6 months. If you're really concerned, wait a year. Okay? Because you don't want bacteria going into your garden, especially like I could take this and put it directly underneath my fruit trees. Anything that is like, you don't want, if you have fruit that's touching the ground, you don't want to put it, like this lemon tree will have, I just picked all the lemons last weekend, but some of the lemons were touching the ground, so I wouldn't put some of this directly underneath there. But like with my peach and apple trees, I can put it directly underneath without composting it first, further composting it first.
But before it goes into the garden?
Before it goes into the garden, I'm a 6-monther. I do 6 months. So in here, in the garage barn coop, I'm using the wood chips, and it's because when I clean that coop, I can't just shovel it right out the door and move. I've got to put it into my garden cart, which is my most valuable player around here, and it's lighter weight. It is a little dusty, so if you decide to have if you decide to go forward with the garage barn idea, just be aware I don't often park my car in there because it would be covered with dust in one day. So chickens are dusty because they scratch. Thanks for coming. But again, I think in the garage barn there right now, I think I have 2 of those bags of wood.